Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for another episode of the Truly a Masterpiece podcast. My name is Craig Walker, and I am here with a graduate and a good friend, Shane Daugherty. Shane is, he's just a few weeks post Truly a Masterpiece course. Shane, I'm thrilled for you to be here because I know our listeners are going to enjoy you and your story. Why don't I tell you what? Why don't I pray for us that people will hear everything that's got to be said, and we'll say and ask the right questions today for their sake. Oh,
Thank
Father in
you.
heaven, Shane and I bow before you, and I just want to say thank you for his willingness to be here, to share his life, to share his story, and to share hope for everyone that listens today. Thank you for my brother for his love for you, his willingness to be humble, to be transparent, and to share his struggle with everyone that's listening. Father, I pray that you help me ask good questions today. I pray you help Shane just to speak what needs to be heard. And then, Lord, I pray for that listener out there today that needs to hear what we're about to talk about. Father, open their heart, open their eyes, their ears, and may they receive everything you have to say to them, that they would be transformed to become more like Jesus Christ. Father, if there's that one or more out there that's never put their trust in you, I pray this would be the day. They just say, gosh, if God can do that for him, he can do it for me. And he can. Thank you, Father. Bless them. Bless each person that hears it. I pray it all in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, brother, why don't you just tell people who you are? Let them meet Shane Daugherty.
Of course. Well, Craig, thanks for having me. I appreciate you putting this together and even just thinking of me enough to have me as one of the attendees of your podcast. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, where do I begin? You want me to go all the way back and just kind of talk about where we started,
Well, let's
or
start with tell them what do you do? You married? You got kids? Let's hear all of that. They need to meet Shane.
okay, great. I am married, so it's crazy to think that we're going to be going on 10 years. We just passed our ninth year on August 5th, and it's been a journey. These last 10 years, and I believe we're only getting started, which we'll kind of talk about some of the ways you've helped me. Two kids, and we have one on the way. So,
Oh, I didn't know that. This is
yep.
the reveal.
This is the reveal to you, my friend. So we have one on the way. We just found out,
Congratulations, brother. Are you trying to catch up with me? You know, six.
possibly. So we have a little boy. We just found out several days ago. So we got the test results back, and we're gonna have a little boy. But right now we have two kids. So my son Roman, he is 8. This October he'll be 8, and my daughter Haven, she just turned 5. So two great kids, and then we're excited to have the third one. Um, and today, so I'm in sales. I've been doing this now for a few years here, local in Dallas, Texas, and 30 years old. And I've been following Jesus now for probably about 10 years, a
Mhm.
little over. And God has just been so good to me this last 6 months of my life, and the story that and the things that He's revealing to me now. It's been just been amazing. So. I can't wait to share more on that.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and let's just tell people how we connected and what we connected over.
Oh, absolutely. And this is my favorite part of the story too, just kind of the way it all unfolded. So Brennan, who's a good friend of both of ours, he
Another graduate of the
yep,
Trivia Master. I think he's on episode 3, one of the first podcasts I did. I told his story. Yeah.
that's amazing. So he, shared with me, your business card. He said, "Hey, give this guy a call. I think he could help. Here's how we met." And he told me a little bit, about the story, how I think you guys built one of your homes or your current home. He helped you, I think, in that project. And, he,
Actually, I can fill that part in. We were at a men's gathering
okay,
and doing a men's night at church. And we just shook hands and I introduced myself. And he said, "Oh," and he did. And he said, "What do you do?" And I told him. And I help men overcome self-doubt to become more influential husbands, fathers, and leaders. And he said, you ever help overcome self-doubt? He's kind of mumbling around. And then I noticed that he stuck with me the rest of the night. And he sat with me at the conference. And we just kind of struck up a conversation before we left. He said, I'd like to talk to you again. And so we met for coffee. He shared his struggle, his self-doubt struggle, and said, "Well, I think I can help you." And so he signed up, took the course. While we were taking the course, I was actually building the house that I'm living in now, that you see me sitting in. And I said, Brandon, why don't you come out and help me a little bit? We get to hang out a little bit. And so he did. He came out and just spent an evening working with me. And I was so grateful for the help because, when you're building a house by yourself, you take anybody. But Brendan's actually got skills, and it was fun to be with him. And then, of course, God dramatically changed his life as well. And then he passed that on to you.
Yeah, that's right. So he shared his business card, and I think it was when we first met for coffee. So, we had a pretty vulnerable conversation, and I think I kept it in my wallet for almost a year. And I didn't really touch it, but your name and your card were in the back of my mind.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of every few months, the thought would pop up. Probably give this guy a call, kind of see what's going on, what he's doing, and maybe how he could help. But I uh, never really, kind of went through after that thought. I just kind of let it, you know, kind of go. And then one day, about a year after he gave me the card, just something prompted me to give you a call. And so that's when you and I connected. But again, good friend Brennan, he passed on your business card. I had it in my wallet for a while. The funny thing is before I even called you, I think myself or my wife, I can't remember, the wallet ended up getting washed in my pants. And the only thing that survived in there was your business card. I always thought that was funny. I think that God wanted me, not think, I know God wanted me to go through your program. I mean, it's just funny that all things in my card were destroyed or my wallet, and your card was the only thing that survived. So that's how you and I got connected was through Brennan and him passing along your business card.
So, what was your specific need? I got a feeling we have a lot of men listening to this that will say, "Oh yeah, I get that. I can identify."
Well, initially, I thought it was pornography. I thought that was the initial need, but after going through your program, I found that it ended up being a lot more than that.
Hmm.
Um, so to kind of hit on the pornography part real quick, because I think um, I'm sure probably a lot of men probably think initially the pornography is the big issue,
Hmm.
but it really stems deeper than that. Um, so I'm 30 now. I'll be 31 this year. When I was first introduced to pornography, I think it was around probably second grade, more or less around there. That's probably 8, 7, maybe. And it's just kind of been a part of my story for all these years, 20 plus years, and never really found a way to overcome it. It was always something that I kept just blaming myself for. How do I kind of fix this issue? What's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough to, you know, kind of overcome this? And why is it just really holding me back? And what I found, kind of going through the program, it ended up being,
Real quick, I want to ask a
sure,
question here. How did you feel about yourself? Because I think you told me once you never had more than 3 weeks sobriety in that
yeah,
20 plus years. How did
oh,
you feel about yourself? What did that feel
it's
like?
terrible. I really had such a poor self-image. The thoughts that always came to mind, number one is, why am I not good enough? But number two, I felt so inadequate in every area of my life as a husband, as a father, in my career. Even in God's eyes, I felt like, well, I'm the exception, right?
Mm,
Like this is part of me. This is who I am. And you know what? It is what it is. Like that's how I viewed it.
mhm,
And, after just every time running to that, I would feel worse and worse. It was just like a deeper hole that I could never really climb out of, but all I could really do was just dig myself deeper in.
mhm,
And it was just shame and um Just
What were some of the things you tried to break free?
I think I tried Covenant Eyes at one point, but I found a workaround in that. So, I ended up getting rid of
And
it
that's
shortly after.
a program.
Yeah, it's kind of a software that you can plug in on your phone
Uh-huh.
and you invite accountability partners. They can essentially see what you're looking at on your phone. They get a report and then, it ultimately it's to encourage or prompt to have honest conversations to kind of figure out, well, what are you watching? Why are you watching this? What can we do to prevent you from watching it? That sort of thing. And
Hmm.
it cost a dollar amount per month, and that really didn't last long. I turned to a good friend of mine, which he walked with me in accountability for a while. That helped, but I don't think it addressed the kind of the root issue of it. It just kind of dealt with the symptom, which was the pornography.
Hmm.
Um,
Accountability is a big thing. It needs to be a part of your life, but it can't be the only thing.
Correct.
And it's like having a rule in place, and that didn't work either. Accountability.
No, it was more of a temporary fix. It worked for a short period of maybe 6, 9 months, and then after the 9 months, ultimately, I saw that things were kind of reverting back to normal. Just kind of the same old habits, the same old thoughts, the same old limiting beliefs, and then it got worse because I thought, well, I was doing okay here, or I felt like I was doing better, and then now I'm back at square one. Like, what's really wrong with me? Like, why, why can't I break free from this thing? So that was
Better in
kind
the
of the second
sense,
thing.
it was better in the sense that you weren't viewing it as often.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Not
Yeah.
free, but hey,
Totally
you're
performance based.
managing it.
Totally, totally performance based, right? Like, okay,
Right.
I'm doing better. Instead of 3 weeks, maybe I went a month. Or maybe, when I felt prompted to, I didn't give in the first time. Okay,
Hmm.
Shane, you gave in on the third time. Yes, I'm doing better. That was
Hmm.
total performance based. And then I think after that, I did a 12-step program through regeneration, which did help. There was a lot of improvements that I did make during that time.
Hmm.
I think the big challenge for me was I did it because the church we used to go through, they offered regen in person, but at this point we lived an hour away.
Hmm.
And so when I went to their website, they had other opportunities to plug in virtually because this was around COVID time. So kind of instead of exploring other churches around my area, I just took the virtual option and I got plugged in through a church up in New Jersey, which I met with them for probably about 15 months. So I stuck the whole way through it. I graduated from the program, but the challenge is I had the program in place. I just didn't have any local accountability that was walking with me during that time.
Hmm.
And so while I was still plugging it through the program, here I am behind closed doors, was still struggling with that, right? So these are kind of the three things that I tried. Again, accountability by itself, but no system or process in place or kind of the truths and those things. Or I had the process, the program in place, but I wasn't walking with accountability.
Hmm.
And what I found was kind of at the end of all that, I just started beating myself up more
Hmm.
because I felt like, man, after all of this, and I'm doing everything that I possibly can, I still cannot break free from it.
God. How long was it before your wife discovered it when she figured out what you were dealing with?
Um, so she knew pretty much this whole time. I hate to say it, but I did drop a bomb on her.
Mhm.
I can't remember if it was shortly after we got married. I want to say it was, but it was during an argument, and I just threw it out at her just out of spite, thinking, oh, she's got the upper hand. I'm gonna hurt her with this, and
Mhm.
and it was a total bomb, and now add another fire to the mix, and ever since then, that was probably about maybe 9 years ago. I want to say again, shortly after we got married, she found out, and she's known this whole time.
Okay. How's that impacted the relationship?
Man, I'll answer it in two ways. So the short answer, it impacted it so much, even more than I realized. It got to a point where she kind of gave me an ultimatum one day, like, hey, you know. Shane, you either choose porn or you choose the family. You choose porn or you choose me. And this was probably about maybe late last year.
Hmm.
Now, um, initially, before, kind of when I was still actively watching porn, I mean, I thought it was only impacting me, kind of in the day to day. Okay, maybe I'm not showing up as present, or maybe I'm not loving my wife, on this day because I'm tempted, but tomorrow I'll do better, right? It was very kind of just me, and I never viewed it as it kind of going beyond me, or at least beyond me to a significant extent.
Mm.
What I found out though is after going through your program, I actually told my wife, and I shared this with the life group. Once I gave pornography up, I felt like I could truly see her. I, now looking back, I never truly saw my wife until after I gave it up.
Hmm.
Um, and the way that I looked at her was very transactional, meaning she meets my needs, and that's really the most important thing. I thought I was loving her, but I wasn't. I was just loving her in a very kind of physical, give
Sure.
me, let me do this so I can get this kind of way. Again, very transactional. And again, I didn't realize just how deep this was, in terms of, how much it was affecting my marriage. Although my wife, I think she was trying to be a trooper and she was trying to support me and love me as best as she could throughout this whole process.
Hmm.
Um, there were times where she would say, like at least I think she was trying to just reinforce a belief for her, and she was really trying to put in the effort, like, hey, I know you're dealing with this and I'm gonna love you and support you as best as I can. But I think deep down in that, it really broke her.
Yeah.
It really broke her. And I don't think she wanted to admit that because I think and again, this is just my thought that I think if she did admit it, I think she knew it probably maybe go deep, make me go deeper in that hole, right? Or would probably discourage me, or maybe, whatever would happen after that. So I think she was just trying to give me more loving, or, words, or more words of encouragement
Hmm.
without putting me down, saying that, hey, this is breaking her because of me. But I
Yeah.
think deep down, like it really broke her, and
If
that's eventually when she gave me the ultimatum.
if a spouse is listening to this today and their husband or wife, it can be either, is addicted or has an addiction period, do you have anything to say to them? How should they respond? How should they? And I know I'm putting you on a spot here, and you may have no answer, and that's fine. But I'm fishing. What would you say to them? How should they react? What should they do to help that person?
Being the spouse, that's supporting a spouse that's
Correct.
dealing with it.
Uh-huh. What could your wife have done differently? Maybe is a better way to ask.
Well, I think the only thing that she could have done, or that I would say for her to have done differently, now looking back on it, is to be totally honest, no matter how much it would have hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
no matter if it would have discouraged me, because the reality is that something like this takes full honesty. It
Hmm.
really does. It takes full honesty. Hey, here's kind of what's going on. Here's where I'm at. Okay, now let's talk about what we need to do to address this. And I think that could only happen with full honesty between the spouses. I appreciate, as much as my wife, um,
The
will
fact
always,
that she didn't confront you directly and say, "This is destroying my love for you," and how
yeah,
we relate kind of allowed you just to feel safe and keep going on, you think?
yeah, I would
Not,
agree with
no,
that.
let me just be sure to say this, no blame on her at all.
Yeah,
Wife
no,
was a trooper. She trusted God. She did what she thought God wanted her to do. She stuck with you. That's an amazing thing in itself.
9 years.
And so,
Yeah.
no criticism. I hope no one hears that. Anything, we're just, it's the conversation to say, okay, what can be done? Let's give somebody some freedom that's dealing with this, walking with a spouse that's walking through this addiction. Let's give them freedom to do some things that will be helpful. So that's
Absolutely.
the power of this point of this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that would be the only thing that I would say, she could have done differently is just being totally honest. But again, I know why she wasn't because she was
Mhm.
trying to be supportive. She was trying to be
Yeah.
loving in the way she thought or knew how to. And I think and this will probably come up later in the conversation. One of the ways you challenged me towards the end of our time together through the program. But I think the other side of it was I probably didn't give her space to be honest with me,
Yeah.
right? And no, let me not say probably. I didn't. I
Mhm.
didn't give her the space to be honest with me.
Mhm.
And so that was probably the other side of it, right? Was that maybe she's like, okay, it's not a safe space, and I don't know how he's going to react. So let me just kind of say this and be supportive and keep the waters calm, right? But so that would be probably the two ways that the spouse dealing with it has to be able to provide that safe space for the other spouse to speak into their life. And
Mhm.
again, total honesty to talk about how that is affecting the other spouse, I think is very important. Because again, I didn't realize how much it was breaking my wife or how much it was hurting her. And maybe I did to an extent, but I was so blinded. I
Yeah.
was so blinded by the pornography.
Absolutely. Well, you've already brought it up, so it'll be good to go here now. Pornography wasn't the issue. It was just a symptom.
Hmm.
It was just a sign of what's really going on in the heart, what's really missing. And this is what you got. And I can say this for anyone listening today, if you're struggling with fear, a sense of failure, a fear of failing, or a sense that I have failed, you're carrying the guilt. There is a sense of true guilt that comes from failing. You experience guilt, Shane, and you should feel guilty because you did wrong. But at the same time, the guilt you can deal with. You can say, I sinned and get God's forgiveness. But what you were dealing with was what everyone deals with that has that feeling I can't win, I'm not enough, and it's shame. Shame is the issue. And you made that discovery. What was that like? Talk more about it. I'll let you take that and run with it.
Sure. So, what we found is just like you said, it all came down to shame. I think the biggest point, the biggest first step, kind of through that process that really led to change was I mean, it's kind of this whole time is I had just been confessing, kind of the fruit of that sin, right? Lord,
Hmm.
sorry, I watched pornography again. Please forgive me. I won't do it again.
Oh yeah.
And sure enough,
That needs to be underscored because I know well, I've done it. We've all done it. And whether
right,
it's for lying or losing your temper, oh God, forgive me for that, instead of getting to the root. Yeah.
right. And of course, I won't do it again. It's
Hmm.
gonna happen. We're human. It probably will happen again. And I just started beating myself up more shame, more guilt, and a deeper hole. What you taught me, Craig, was that um, instead of confessing the fruit, confess the root.
Hmm.
Reality is that I didn't trust Jesus enough that the price he paid on the cross for me covered me too. And that was different for me because the whole time it really came down just to an unbelief in that.
Hmm.
Unbelief that his sacrifice also covered me. And so you challenged me that, okay, well, here's a list of these things. Take it to God and confess the root of it. So pornography wise, I went and I confessed the root. Lord, I just don't believe that the price you paid on the cross covers me. And that's what it comes down to is I just don't believe you enough in that. And I mean, man, talk about just a weight after confessing that was just off my shoulder. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me was the next day I felt like things started to change spiritually. And so kind of walking through that, we put some systems in place, right? Kind of the battle cards that, through God's grace and his mercy, I can and I will, and then kind of fill in the blank of those things, that we may be struggling with. After the pornography, the other thing was in my marriage. I just thought, well, you know, I I guess this is how our marriage is always going to be. Um, I'm gonna try to love her and she's gonna try to love me, but we're just gonna miss the mark, or I'm just not good enough to love my wife in this, or whatever it may be. Like whatever the beliefs that I had at the time and what I found, and the thing that you challenged me with was that you said, based on some of the stuff that I had shared with you, you said,
Mm.
Shane, what it sounds like is that she probably doesn't have a safe space for her to speak into your life. And I think if I remember correctly, I think I started to kind of justify that in my head, like, well, no, because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And what we found is that, you know what? It's true. All these years, just because I'm making progress in the last 6 months, and which here in about a week, Craig, I'll be 7 months sober of pornography. So that was been a big win. But
Yeah.
just because, I went all these months without watching pornography or without turning to that and the lust and all that doesn't mean that it changes everything else. Doesn't mean that, I mean, it's still going to require work in my marriage and as a dad and other areas. And what I found was that, okay, maybe I've been intentional about the pornography, but I also need to be intentional in my marriage about the space that I'm creating for my wife.
Hmm.
And so I took the challenge, and there's just areas that in our marriage that I just haven't given my wife the space to speak in. I kind of started asking for her opinion, like finances was kind of the big one. I even went to her and say, "Hey, honey, you know what? I have a little bit of debt on this credit card. It's nothing crazy, but we can pay it off today." And we started talking through that. She gave me her advice, and I think normally I kind of would have just shunned her away on that, like, no. But I was honest with her. I was like, "Nah, I just don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe I can do this. What do you think?" And she gave it to me, and I said, "Okay, well, let me think about that, and maybe we'll come back in a couple of days and kind of see, what we decide to do." And so again, previously, I would have just said, nope, I don't like that. Done deal, whatever. I don't agree with you. Today, I thought, you know what? I got to create a safe space. What's one of the things or areas that her and I have had a lot of friction in? Finances. Let me ask her opinion on this, right? And so these are just some of the different ways. And now I'm not obviously perfect yet, right? I'm still doing my best to find those little ways to create the safe space, but now what I'm finding is that after kind of dealing with the shame and the guilt that I had of the pornography and the lust and all that, now what I'm finding is I'm seeing things more clear and I'm being a little bit more intentional. And through creating that safe space, just like you told me, is that give her that space to speak into my life and accept it and hear her feedback and continue to love her and give grace, and eventually I'll be able to do the same with her. And so that limiting belief of my marriage always kind of being this, and rocky, grounds and unstable, and it's just always going to be friction. Now I can kind of see where things are beginning to change.
Hmm.
She shared some stuff with me recently, like I was on a work trip, and she said at Life Group, I don't remember what the question was, but she shared that, she just kind of started getting teary-eyed and crying a little bit, just saying how much she loves me and how much she's proud of me. And I'm like, oh, that was so awesome to
Oh
hear,
yeah.
and
That's awesome for me to hear because
yeah,
I remember when we started and I asked you a question. I said, Shane, what if you don't deal with this? What if you just say it's just the way it is and I can't win? And you never
mhm,
and we never get together. I said, what's going to happen? You said, I'll probably be divorced in another month. I think my
yeah,
wife will leave me. To hear that story like 6 months ago, and to hear this story today that she's crying over how much she loves you, that that makes me, well, that's an understatement. That makes me happy.
yeah. Thank you. I mean,
Like Paul said, for the Philippians, you are my joy and my crown.
yeah,
Um,
it was so cool to hear that. It really was. And at the end of that same trip, I was having a little bit of rough time on that last day. And man, she just lifted me up and just spoke so much life into me because I told her, I was like, I like this trip, I'm just really struggling. Here's how I'm feeling. And I don't know what to do. Like I feel really broken right now. And it had everything to do more with kind of work and everything.
Mhm.
And she just started speaking life into me. It was really cool. And I'm not kidding, Greg. After we got off the call, I just felt like just at the peak of the world, right? So it was just so cool to see just that challenge of letting her speak into my life and, kind of allowing her to have that space to be vulnerable with me and to be herself without critiquing her
Mhm.
or trying to change what she's saying or dismissing it. How much it's changed things. And so, again, it's only the beginning, but it's just
Yeah.
really cool to see how it's kind of all starting to unfold on that first step.
You're right. It is the beginning, and you're in. What I tell everybody, and you've heard me say this, is when you win this battle with shame, when you say, I am going to win this battle, I'm going to see that I am who God says I am. It's like Israel crossing over into the promised land. The previous generation, they just said, forget it. We're staying out here in the wilderness. And God said, if you want to, that's fine. You can, you belong to me. You left Egypt. You came out of the epitome of the world. So you belong to me. I get it. But you're still going to you're going to die in the desert. And the next generation said, would you like to go into the promised land? Would you like to go in the land flowing with milk and honey? And they said, yes. And they crossed the river. They followed Joshua and they went into the promised land. And God said, now it's yours. I'm giving it to you. It's all yours. But you still have to fight to take it back. So when a person wins that battle, they cross into the promised land. And that, after then, it's just taking back all the land that's been taken from you. It's what I say, taking back every inch of your soul that the enemy has stolen from you. And now that's just what you're going to do the rest of your life. The good news is you have so much of it you take right off the bat. I mean, within the first year or two, you take so much back. After that, it's just little battles here, little battles there. And it's not like you're fighting for your life every day to hang on to what you've got. And you're not. You already are so far into this in 6 months that you're enjoying the life that God created you to love. And
Mhm.
this is
Right.
so true that God told us in the New Testament what happened to Israel. These things are for our example. So this is good for us to compare our life now of going in, winning over shame, and taking back every square inch that belongs to us. It's just like Israel. So we have a choice, and you made the good choice. I'm going to take it all back. I'm not going to leave anything left in the enemy's hands. And you didn't. Shane, I'm proud of you. I'm so grateful for you to tell your story today. Is there any parting word? And I know I didn't prompt you for this, didn't tell you I was going to ask you this. Any parting word you would share with those that are listening today? Because some are, they're not involved in addiction. They're good people going to work every day, doing their job, but they still feel stuck. They feel like there's more to me than I've been able to live. And they're hiding, they're pretending, they're self-limiting, self-sabotaging. What would you say to those? And those struggling with bitterness, anger, jealousy, gossiping. What do you say to that person today?
Good question. Um, so, you know, take the first step. It looks scary. It seems like maybe there's no hope, right? It could look like a million different things, but take the first step. If I never called you, I guarantee that I probably would still battling with pornography.
Mhm.
My wife and I would probably be in a worse position. And then you add a baby into the mix, right? And who knows where we'd be at that time.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's just there's so many, things you could say that here's what probably could have happened if I never called you. And I'm so glad that I took the first step of
Mhm.
just initiating that phone call. So the first thing I would say is like, regardless of all the fear or maybe the uncertainty, um, it could be an unsupportive spouse that, that maybe doesn't want you to make, to invest into a program, whatever it looks like, is just take that first step. Um, and be honest and vulnerable as you take that first step. So I went to my wife And the reason why I just mentioned kind of a unsupportive spouse in that part, because I went to her, she was a little unsure at first, right? She's like, well, maybe vet them out, and then, before you take that step, and so I was just honest. I said, look, here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what I feel we need to do. And she came back and was totally supportive, but it's because I started and I was honest about it. Um, so again, as you take the first step, just be open, vulnerable, honest. Hey, here's where I'm at. And I think if you do that, kind of like you and I were on that first call, I think the rest, it opens that door for the rest to happen.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, and what we've talked about is God wants a willing heart, right? He wants a willing heart. And I was willing to give it all up. I was willing to come forward. And the other side of it is what I find is when you're not willing in those areas, well, much might not change.
Yep.
So, so that's probably what I would say, as kind of the, parting words is take the first step, regardless of whatever the circumstances may be. But two, as you take that first step, be totally honest about
Mhm.
where you're at and what's going on and what you're
A good
feeling.
word.
Because at that point, then you can address it head on, right?
Mhm.
So, that's what I would say. It's I think, what I would leave the audience with.
Well, that's a good word. Shane, thanks for being with us today. I hope everyone has enjoyed your story and feels a sense of hope washing over their soul that I don't have to stay stuck. I can win. I can be like
That's right.
Shane and see God do incredible things. Shane, uh, God bless you, my brother. Go your way and keep taking back every square inch of your soul that you surrendered and live that life that God created you to love. For everyone else, you can reach me at Craig at craigwalkercoaching.com. You can go to my website, craigwalkercoaching.com, click on contact, drop down menu. You can schedule a 30-minute coffee chat with me. I'd love to do that for free, give you coaching on the spot. And you can find out if coaching is right for you or just get help on the call. Whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. God bless, and we'll see you next time.